This game was so innocent and so unsuspecting. I never would have thought in a million years that in just 24 hours' time, my dad would be banning me from Pokémon Snap.
Wonderful!
I'll never forget the first time I ever encountered Pokémon. I was 12 years old in 7th grade speech and drama class. There was a substitute teacher that day, and she had declared it a free day. That meant we can do whatever we wanted. And for me, that really wasn't much. I was very bored. I didn't have anything to do. But I noticed a couple of rows over at his desk, Andrew Bond was playing a Game Boy. And so I thought to myself, what is he playing? And I noticed that a bunch of other kids had gathered around his desk and were watching him and talking about this game. So I kind of walked my way over and I said to some kid, as I'm trying to look and see what all the commotion is, I asked a kid next to me, hey, what is he playing? What is this? The kid looked at me and he said, Pokemon. And he handed me the instruction manual. Here, check it out. So I'm looking through this instruction manual, and as I'm looking through it, I'm noticing, oh, this is a role-playing game. Okay, I've played role-playing games before. I know what to expect here. But what makes this one so special? The kid next to me says, well, you catch monsters, and you train them, and you put them in battles. The whole idea is to try to catch them all. You collect them. And this was such a novel idea to me. This was such a unique and different thing that I had never really seen before in a video game. I found it pretty appealing. But back then, I still was kind of on the fence with role-playing games, especially turn-based RPGs. I was more of an action RPG fan. And so I wasn't super excited about the game, but I was definitely intrigued. And it was kind of crazy to see a bunch of kids in class be so excited over a Game Boy game. I mean, Game Boy was already pretty old at this point, guys. Pokemon was something special. There was something different about this game.
Pokemon for Game Boy is here. With both packs, you can catch them all.
I went to Blockbuster that weekend with my mom, and I'm looking through the aisles. I'm looking at the different new releases, that big new release wall with all the brand new VHS tapes that were out. You could always count on that new release section to find something interesting, maybe something you'd never seen before, the hottest movies. And lo and behold, a whole section of that wall is dedicated to Pokemon I Choose You. And I'm like, Pokemon? Isn't that game that he was playing in class? So I went ahead and I rented that tape. From the moment I inserted that VHS into my mom's VHS player, I became obsessed with Pokemon.
More than a game, Pokemon is an undeniable obsession with children across the country.
The Pokemon phenomenon of the late 90s and into the early 2000s was something that you just had to live it, guys. You just had to be there to experience just how wild and crazy it all was.
#1 TV show, the #1 video game, and most of all in the popular trading cards.
I'll trade you this for a Gyarados. That for a Gyarados? That's crazy.
It was just all over the pop culture zeitgeist. Everywhere you looked and turned, there was Pikachu.
Oh, Michelle's gonna pay. Do you see
again.
I got caught up in all of Pokemania back then. I remember I got Pokemon Blue. In my classroom, I would trade with my buddy Drew Grant, and the two of us had Pokemon Blue and he had Pokemon Red. And we would trade back and forth with each other Pokemon.
Thank you, Drew.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, link cable. Link cable.
You can.
This whole concept of using the link cable to trade Pokemon back and forth.
Let me see the stats.
I'll give you a truth about Scyther. Most of his moves, except for one of them, is just a way of powering up her.
I would be playing that Game Boy late into the night. I remember playing it until the batteries died one night, guys. I mean, that's how obsessed I was with Pokemon. It breathed new life into the struggling Game Boy. And to me, back then, it just made sense that Nintendo would eventually give us a mainline Pokemon game on Nintendo 64. I mean, surely they were working on one, right? Here they had this winning formula, this incredible game, and it was trapped on an old and antiquated piece of hardware, the 1989 released Game Boy. Surely Nintendo was going to give the fans a 3D open-world Pokemon game where you could explore the entire region in a 3D space. Kind of like Mario 64 or Zelda Ocarina of Time. This is the kind of Pokemon game I dreamed of. Taking the formula that was found in Pokemon Red and Blue and bringing it on to the 64-bit Nintendo 64, bringing that world that I loved so much to life. But is that what we got? I'm afraid not, my friends. The closest we got to that dream was Pokémon Snap.
Today's assignment, photograph the elusive Pokemon. How do you do it? You're gonna be fast. You need a keen eye, the best equipment, and lightning-quick reflexes.
No, you don't. All you need is Pokémon Snap, the first Pokémon game for N64. Find them, frame them, and shoot. You can even bring your Snap cartridge to a participating Blockbuster video and print out stickers of your favorites.
Doesn't look like they're coming out today. Hard luck.
Pokémon Snap, gotta catch them.
Pokémon Snap was released in 1999, and this game was the first sort of 3D Pokemon Nintendo 64 game where you could explore the world of Pokemon. But there was a catch. You were on rails. You weren't even a trainer. You were a photographer. You took pictures of Pokemon. Now, I was disappointed when I first heard about this, but then I thought about it a little bit more. And I thought, you know what? That sounds like it could be fun. Almost like you're on an amusement park ride, going through these various Disney World rides, or in this case, Pokemon rides, taking pictures of all the Pokemon in the land. I could get on board with this. But you know what? This was something that Dad was not going to buy for me at list price.
Great pictures. That's the name of the game in Pokémon Snap. Pokémon Snap. Take your best shot.
Dad was not a Pokemon fan. He really didn't like it at all. He hated the concept. He thought the characters were too sugary sweet and it was just too much for Dad. He didn't like it. But he supported my love for it by buying me the original Pokemon game. Pokemon Snap, though, was a harder sell. And rather than buy the game for me, Dad decided, let's rent it. And so we went to my local Blockbuster and picked up the rental of Pokemon Snap. Back then we had a 5-day rental, so I had 5 days to experience this thing and get the most out of it as I could before I had to return it and probably never see it again. The first night I played Pokemon Snap, I remember immediately loving the game. You're a photographer, and it's up to you to take as many beautiful photos of Pokemon in their natural habitat as you can. You can spin around 360 degrees inside this really cool customized cart or tram, and at the end of each ride or stage, Professor Oak grades you on how you did.
Hello there.
You can select various photos from the ones you took and hand them off to Professor Oak to be graded.
Wonderful.
Now, you only have a certain amount of photos you can take per round, so make sure you're making your shots count. Every time I retried one of the levels, I felt like I was experiencing something brand new because I would look a certain way or turn a different direction and see something I missed the first go-round. And there was always a chance for me to improve my photographs. I loved that high score nature, how each photo of each different Pokemon gets graded separately. And it really encouraged you to become a better photographer in many ways. It really encouraged you to get that high score and prove to yourself that, you know what, next go round, I'm going to take a better photo of Pikachu or of Bulbasaur. That first night I played Pokemon Snap, I never would have imagined that such a wonderful and fun game would become something that was actually detrimental to my health. The first thing I did the next day after I came home from school, I started playing Pokemon Snap. And from that point forward, I played Pokemon Snap hour after hour. I remember Dad coming home from work, putting away his things, sitting in the recliner, and just watching me play Pokemon Snap. And I'm obsessing over making sure I get all of the Pokemon I can in each round, taking better shots, taking photos of Pokemon I didn't take before, discovering hidden Pokemon by triggering events with different items that you could throw. I just remember getting into this weird frame of mind, guys. I don't really know how to explain it other than it's like you've got tunnel vision and all you can think about and all you can see and all you want to do is play that game. You know, I was in 8th grade at this point. I was, 1 year away from high school. So there was a lot of responsibility and a lot of trust about me getting a good night's sleep. I had no idea that this was about to become one of the worst nights of my life. In just 24 hours' time, my dad would be banning me from Pokemon Snap. I remember Dad went to bed and I'm there playing Pokemon Snap way into the later hours of the night. I know at this point I had unlocked most of the game. I'm pretty sure I had already unlocked the Valley stage, and at this point I'm just trying to capture the last photographs of Pokemon that I need to complete, the entire set to catch them all. Really, I was retrying every stage over and over again, and it almost became like compulsive and obsessive that I get a better photo of this Pokemon and I get a better high score, and I hope Professor Oak grades me better this time around.
Wonderful.
Finally, I realized I got to turn this game off. I've got to go to bed. It is getting late. So I turned it off and I headed up to my bedroom and I turned off the lights and hopped into bed. I may have turned off that television, guys, but the images of Pokemon Snap were burned into my mind's eye. I remember lying in my bed, all the lights off. I have my eyes closed, but all I can see in my mind's eye is images of a tram ride. of Charizard popping up out of a volcano, of Eevee chasing around a Chansey, Pidgeys flying straight at me, Pikachu staring into my soul. I swear, it was like I was inside Pokemon Snap. I could not remove that game from my mind, no matter how hard I tried. I tossed and I turned. I remember trying to think of other things. Back then, my dad used to tell me, if you can't sleep, just imagine Maggie, my dog, running through the forest. This was his technique. I don't know why he used to say that, but this is what he used to tell me to do. So I would sit there and I would lay there thinking, okay, Maggie running through the forest. But instead of Maggie running through the forest, it was Pikachu running through the forest. It got to the point where I was starting to sweat in bed. I was starting to get really antsy and really nervous because I realized over time I'm not falling asleep. I remember at one point I got up and I actually went over to my dad's room and I woke him up and I told him I can't go to sleep. I can't stop thinking about Pokemon. And he gets upset with me. He's like, Tyler, you've got to go to bed. Dad back then, he was no nonsense when it came to stuff like this. If this ever happened, if I woke him up, it would really make him mad. And so I reluctantly trot back to bed and I try to go back to sleep, but I can't get the game out of my head. No matter how hard I try, the images are still there every time I close my eyes. And this continued, guys, all through the night. I didn't sleep at all this entire night because I was obsessing over Pokemon Snap. Soon enough, after an excruciating wait, I get up in the morning when my dad gets up, and I haven't slept at all. I am literally a walking zombie because of this game. And I do the walk of shame into my dad's room and I tell him, I didn't sleep at all. Please, you got to keep me home from school. I don't want to go to school because I haven't slept. He told me in that moment, you have to go to school, but not only that, you're banned from Pokemon Snap. I don't want you playing that game anymore. And the entire rest of that rental, that rental time period was for nothing. I didn't get to play it anymore. It was banned from my house. And I remember being pretty upset, but at the same time, I understood. There was a part of me that didn't want to even play that game anymore because of what it had done to me. It had ruined my night, and it had become like this unhealthy thing. I remember throughout the school day still thinking about it. Like it had firmly burrowed into my brain, and I was still thinking about it even in each of my classes. I was actually scared to go to bed that night. I was so afraid that I was going to have a repeat night where I wouldn't be able to sleep, where I would just think about Pokemon Snap. Well, that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of My Retro Life, taking a look back at Pokemon Snap, the game my dad banned from my household because it was detrimental to my health. I literally could not sleep because of this game. And you know what? I'm really glad my dad banned this game because I needed to get away from it. If this is your first time to the channel, do consider subscribing. I love talking about my game crazy family and all the amazing adventures we had with video games, so many of which were caught on tape by Dad. And thank you, patrons, for all of your support. This episode was actually voted on by our Patreon and YouTube membership community. definitely head on over to patreon.com/myretrolife if you want to support the channel that way, or click the join button right here on YouTube. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.